Hey everyone, welcome back to Gav Em's show. Now Em, what are we going to talk about this week?
This week we talk about what we do while we're teaching.
I bring up the topic of what happens when you step away from your class and you return to find something strange has happened to your students.
And then we talk about students failing to answer the questions you actually ask them.
I question how to expand our pod's popularity, Em.
And finally, we talk about students using translation apps in the classroom.
So sit back, put on your seatbelts and release the handbrake because we are going to set off on this teaching and learning journey.
Welcome everybody, this is How to English, Teach and Learn with Gav Em.
It's a podcast about teaching and learning English as a foreign language.
All opinions stated are personal and references will be given when necessary.
Welcome back. It's episode 5 of Gav Em's How to English pod. I hope you're ready for a good chinwag with me.
I'm ready, Gav. I am all ears to listen to your ideas and react accordingly.
I hope you're not only ears, but also a mouth with which you will be talking.
Yes, I will also be talking and giving you my opinions because we're going to discuss things all about TEFL, teaching English as a foreign language. So students and teachers alike, I hope, will be interested.
I certainly hope they will. Well, I know I'll be interested, Em, and that's possibly enough for now.
Oh, thanks, Gav.
Would you like to kick off the first topic, Em?
Yes, Gav, let me start with a topic that I have been thinking about lately, and that topic is, what do you do while you're teaching? I think we've talked about what do we do after we've finished a lesson, but what do you do while you're teaching?
I grind my teeth. I pop my knuckles.
Do you?
I grip my toes until...
Grip your toes? What with? Your hands?
with themselves until they hurt.
I'm getting that you're in a quite tense state.
I can be sometimes. Sometimes I notice that I am quite tense and my whole body is constricting into a solid lump.
Why?
Because I don't know what's going to happen next. I'm sitting there thinking, is that student going to answer my question? Is that other student going to ask another question? Is anything going to happen now, or should I jump in and take control?
Yeah, I think teaching is quite a precarious thing to be navigating.
Like being on a roller coaster, Em. It's got its highs, it's got its lows, it's got its tense moments where you're gripping your teeth.
You're not gripping, you're grinding, gritting your teeth, gripping onto the handles.
Where you're gritting your teeth.
Holding on to the handles.
Which might be the mouse or the keyboard or the underneath of the table.
You're in a fight or flight mode, like most of the time.
Yes.
Hopefully not running away. I see what you're saying, and sometimes I do feel like I need to tell myself, relax, put those shoulders down a bit, breathe. Don't just hold your breath and wait for the answer that's coming that may or may not be grammatically correct.
Try not to roll your eyes as the student incorrectly uses that grammatical point again.
Yeah. But what I think you've really stumbled upon, or maybe deliberately said, is it's important to be conscious of your body and to not hold yourself too tense. I think if you're teaching a 4-lesson, 5-lesson day, that's a long time to be in that mode or to be in that state. So I think it's really good to sometimes reflect on how your body is feeling, and maybe if you're clenching your fists, just sort of relax your hands.
Get one of those squeezy balls.
If you're maybe teaching online, but I don't know about standing in front of a group of people squeezing a ball. Do you think that's okay?
It's better than biting on the end of a pen, perhaps.
Oh yeah, that's true. But I don't know, I wouldn't feel good about just standing there with a stress ball, just like gripping it really tightly.
True. I failed to mention that I also have moments of pure bliss where I'm gliding down that roller coaster with my hands in the air, screaming,
whee!
Whee!
Yeah.
And the students are having a great time. Everybody's communicating, talking, writing, reading, listening, speaking, whatever it is. It's working.
Good. So it's not all bad. I get that. But even then, you can still be in a tense state physically. I also check that I'm not crossing my legs too often if I'm sitting down, because I don't think that's good. Try and keep your feet flat.
That'll make your blood pressure go up, apparently.
If you cross your legs?
Yeah.
Ah, that's good. Yeah.
No, it's not good. You should uncross your
Good
legs.
to know, sorry. I also have an under-desk exerciser.
What the heck is an under-desk exerciser, Em?
Well, I'm online, so my students only see me from the chest up. So I'm just a head, basically.
Torso plus head.
Yeah.
Possibly a shoulder. Maybe the odd
Well,
hand.
2 shoulders, but yeah. Not sideways.
The,
but...
the occasional hand, if you're describing maybe the height, width, depth, or length of something.
Yes, but that's good because that means my legs can be doing something else. And I've had to research it and find a exercise machine that fits under my desk, that is the right dimensions, not too big, and isn't too, how do you say, like jiggly. I don't want to jiggle too much.
You don't want to be wibble wobbling in front of your students as they see your head bob up and down.
I think that would be quite nauseating.
Nauseating for you or for the students?
Well, for both, I think. Definitely the students. I think that would be really bad to see my head going like side to side.
Em, could you describe your under-desk exercising device, please?
Something between a stepper and an exercise bike. So it has little steps that you put your feet in and you can sort of cycle with them. So your feet are going around. It's not the same as a bicycle, obviously, but you're moving your legs.
Are you strapped in?
No, you're not.
Is there a seatbelt?
No, there's no seatbelt. It's not electric either. All
It's
manual.
not electric.
Mm.
Well, that's good for the environment.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? And it doesn't make any noise, so it's very quiet, which is really good. You don't want to be distracted or students to hear a background noise. So I can actually move my legs, which is really good because, you know, when you've been sitting down for a couple of hours, you start getting that feeling where your legs are, I don't know.
Numb?
No, not numb.
Tingly?
But tingly. Like they just want to move. Like you just want to get up.
Maybe you need some clenching exercises while you're sitting as well.
You could do your pelvic floor while you're doing all this. Really good opportunity to do that. So what do you do? Do you have any sort of exercise machine or ways of getting your legs to calm down?
There is nothing under my desk, other than dust, of course, and a few cables. But what I do, Em, is I stand.
Do you? Have you got one of those special desks that move up and down?
I haven't, but I've got a special arm which is connected to the wall.
Not your arm. Your arm doesn't connect to the wall.
No, not like a bionic arm or something.
Engage arm. You mean like a bracket thing?
It is a bracket thing. That's exactly what it is. In fact, I have 2 of them. One of them's got the monitor on and the other one has the keyboard on, and it allows me to stand up. It's of my own design, Em.
Really? So it's adjustable in height and, what would it be, girth? I don't know, width? You can move it around in any direction.
Yes, forward and back as well. So if I want to step back, I can. If I want to do a little performance, if I need to explain something using my whole body.
Okay, great. That's really nice. It gives you the option of standing up, sitting down. You can move between the two during the lesson.
That's it. One swift movement and I will be back in my chair and my legs can recover.
Okay, that's lovely. If you did want to do some sort of exercises on one leg, stretching, you can. And also, Gav, a little bird told me that you've got a treadmill.
I do have a treadmill. Em, where do you hear all these secrets from?
I will never reveal my sources.
Well, you're quite right. I do have a treadmill, which means that I can place the treadmill beneath my feet while I'm standing and have a little trot while I'm teaching. Although, to be honest, it's something I don't do very often because a couple of students said they felt a bit sick watching my head bob up and down.
Coming back to my point, you are moving around too much.
A bit, yeah. For them, anyway. I was quite enjoying it because I was getting a few miles in while I was walking, but I was getting a little breathless at times when I was speaking. You kind of got to get the balance there, I think.
That's another thing I didn't think about. I think there's a lot of options if you do work from home or if you are online. There are some really good exercise machines out there. And also, yeah, your workstation is really important. But if you're in the classroom teaching, then you've got more freedom to move around, sit down, stand up. That's good.
Go to the board, go to the students.
Yeah, I never had a problem when I was teaching face-to-face with, my legs feeling tired.
Well, you sat down as soon as you did.
Yeah, that's right. It's good just to think about this, stay healthy, do what you need to do. Don't just sit on a beanbag all day.
What's wrong with a beanbag?
I don't know. It was the first thing that came to mind, but I just think about your seat. Is it supporting your back? Do you have the screen at eye level? Don't make your neck move up and down too much. You've got to get all your ducks in a row, if that's the right expression.
Is that what they say?
I don't think they do. Maybe they do.
For ergonomic purposes?
Yeah, just line it up to the optimum levels.
Yes, and uncross your legs now and then.
Yes.
Something I've been thinking about recently that has happened from time to time, and I thought I might raise it with you, because both you and the followers may have experienced this before, whether they're teachers or students, and it's when I step away from the class for a second, and I come back and discover that, to my surprise, the students are not speaking English, but in fact speaking their own language.
You're talking about if you're online and you might need to open the door to a delivery, or in the classroom and you've got to just quickly take a phone call maybe, or you've not photocopied something and you leave the room, you leave the meeting, you come back and you hear them all speak in their own language and not English.
That is precisely what I mean. Has that ever happened to you? And if so, could you explain why it happens?
Well, luckily it doesn't happen very often because I don't usually have to leave. But yeah, there's definitely been occasions where I remember returning and thinking, okay, they're all just speaking their own language. I think the reason is just it's easier and...
It's easier for students. Hold on. It's easier. Please break this down for me. It's easier.
Well, they don't have to think so much if they're speaking their own language. English is obviously, for some levels, it depends on the level. I mean, I think lower levels probably would revert to their own language sooner than higher levels, perhaps.
As soon as they get stuck, or as soon as the teacher disappears?
As soon as the teacher disappears,
What's the catalyst, Em? Where's the spark of reversion back to their own language?
Maybe it's the memory of school where, okay, we don't have to do this anymore.
So it's a punishment to speak English in your English lesson?
I'm just thinking out loud. I don't know. If you've got some ideas, tell me what you think.
I imagine, and I have no evidence for this, that in the case of me having to leave for a moment and saying to my students, please continue talking about your favourite weather condition in English, and then I look at the students threateningly and then disappear. I imagine one student turns to another and says, the weather's very... and then they pause, and then they switch to their own language because they don't know the word.
Well, I've got a lot there to unpack because you've also now introduced the idea of instruction. So you've actually told them, continue speaking in English.
Oh, I always do. I say, make sure, because I will be back, and I don't want to hear your language when I come back again.
See, I would say, sorry, I've got to step out for a second, and maybe not say that, so then there's more chance they're not going to speak English. But now you've explained that, yeah, I think you're right. It would be a really typical situation.
If I just disappeared, my students would be concerned. I would have to
tell
them
why. You tell them why, but you don't... It's just that one crucial sentence of, and continue to speak English. Because I may have just said, just keep talking or, carry on with that topic. But in English, then I think they should really keep talking in English. But I agree with you. I think one of them would probably struggle to find a word, and then suddenly they've all switched because somebody's introduced their own language back in.
It's a bit of a habit then. As soon as you hear somebody speaking your language, you just automatically switch.
Maybe. I would like to know what our students think. Maybe I'll ask them. What do you do, Gav, when you get back and they're all rabbiting away in their own language?
I put my headphones on and comically go to remove them and put them back on again and say, what's happening here? I think I've tuned into Radio your country.
Yeah, you say like, I must be in the wrong meeting. This can't be the group I left. They were all speaking English fluently. And
I
now
thought this was an
what's
English lesson.
happened?
Why are you here? Why did you come today if you don't want to speak English?
You have very high expectations, and I agree with you. They should speak English. I say to my students that because they're in an English group, if they work together, when they meet each other at work, they should only speak English.
That's what I say. I encourage them to do that too. Or if they don't work closely together but see each other in the canteen, maybe go over to the other person's table, say, "Hi, I'm from your English class, remember me?" And then have a conversation in English.
I love that idea, though, that there are people in these countries just walking around speaking English because they're in the English club and that's what they do together. I think there are students out there that do it without even realising, and that's amazing, isn't it, when they just associate that person with English and they speak it because they always speak English together.
That's very cool.
And it must be really weird for them when they do speak their own language. Can you imagine just meeting someone who you know can speak your own language, but you're forced to speak this other language with them? And then in a situation that's normal, you're speaking your own language, and it must be really strange, like fluent and easy to say everything you want to say. But in your English class, you're in this really weird space where you're all struggling to communicate.
What does that tell you about our role? Are we circus masters? Are we dictators? Are we evil overlords that are forcing them against their will? Because as soon as I turn my head, they're back into their own language again, Em.
Yeah, maybe that does tell us something, but I think you get there. I think it's a learning, speaking, confidence journey, isn't it? I think maybe students don't enjoy it at the beginning, but I've seen a lot of people really change where they say to me after 6 months, "Oh, I really enjoy this now and I look forward to coming and I feel more confident." So I'm hoping it isn't like that. It's more of a theme park, fun thing. The gates open, you go in, you have a fun time for an hour, and then you leave again. We're all on that roller coaster together.
You're probably right. Now I think about it, it's some of the newer students who join the group who may cause the class to revert back to their preferred language, but perhaps after time they will all embrace the English language.
Yeah. Something else I've been thinking about recently, Gav, is when you ask students questions, could be "how are you?" or more complicated questions.
Don't you wish you had more time to explore the world of Minecraft?
Any question, really. As teachers, it's really important to make sure you get the answer to your question. Because maybe, Gav, you've experienced things that I've experienced where you ask a question and you get an answer, but it's not the answer to the question you asked.
That has happened.
So why is it happening? Can you tell me your ideas why students do that?
To be honest, Em, I think that happens in all walks of life, not only when I'm teaching. Do people fail to answer the questions I ask?
Well, why does it happen in real life then?
Because people have a different question in their mind when I'm asking my question to them.
They want to tell you something, but they're not actually listening to your question. They're just telling you what they want you to know.
Perhaps, or they only listen to the beginning of my question and then they assume the rest of it and they decide to answer that one.
That's a good one. I think that happens definitely. They think the question coming is a standard one, but it may not be. Any other ideas?
They don't want to answer the question?
That could also be the case.
It might be a question that requires a personal answer.
Yes. They may not have understood the question, and they're just using an answer as a sort of strategy.
A generic answer, perhaps.
If I just talk, then it's fine. I'm just giving an answer, but not the right one. So what do you do as a teacher? It's a good answer, grammatically correct, interesting information, but it's not the answer to the question you asked.
I asked the question again after saying, "Oh, interesting. But can you tell me?" And then I repeat the question again, and I look very closely at the student to see what I think they understand, or the reason why they're not answering my question. As we stated already, is it because they don't understand, because they don't want to answer? Do they have another topic in their mind they'd prefer to discuss?
Do you rephrase the question?
that depends on the complexity of the question and the level of the student.
Mm-hmm.
If they're a low-level student, then I might think to myself, oh, was that too complicated for them? I'll use some other words to ask the question.
Yeah. Teachers have to think about all these things. And it may be really awkward and uncomfortable if you ask 3 times and then they're still not giving you the answer.
That has happened to me, but I remember repeating exactly the same question 3 times, and each time the student answered, I said, "That's very interesting, but can you tell me?" And then repeating the question again.
Mm-hmm.
Until the student either realised that they were not answering the question, or they had misunderstood it, or stopped completely, and then I realised that they had hit a brick wall of comprehension.
I think you have to gauge it, definitely, because I would usually ask twice using the same structure, but then after that I would rephrase it. I would probably write it on the board or in the chat if I'm online.
That's a good idea.
Because I think sometimes students just don't know the structure or they don't know some of the words in there and they're just embarrassed to say, I don't understand. It's great if students say, sorry, I don't understand that question, but a lot of the time they just think, I'll improvise and hope it's suitable.
Does this happen a lot then, Em? It sounds like you've got a lot of experience of students not answering your questions.
I think when you really analyse some of the question-answer structures, yeah, they don't answer the question. Maybe you're right, it's a human thing that we tend to just say something we're thinking about. Depends on also the question, obviously. If it's a book you're working with and it's clearly, yes, no, and it's a CCQ type question where you're checking comprehension, there is only one answer.
You might ask the question, would you like to go to the moon? And they answer, no, I can't. And you think, there's a misunderstanding here, something I need to teach, something
Yes.
they need to understand.
That's another thing, yeah. So is it something that's stopping their understanding from a level of English that they don't have? That's a really good example, actually. I'm thinking also about asking very simple questions like, how does that program work that you use every day in your job? And they'll just answer, yes, I use it 3 times every week. And you're saying, well, no, but how does it work? And maybe I don't know the answer to that question either. How does it work? It's a very technical question if you really take it to its basic level. But I think also we say it in a casual way in English of just tell me the process or, what's the step-by-step stages of how you would use it.
It's quite possible the student does not know those words to explain a process.
That's also true. But make sure your question is understandable is my first point. How does it work is kind of an open question in English. It could be technically, but also just, what are the steps you would explain to somebody trying to use it, not like the chips and bits and cables and everything. Because I think a lot of the time students don't talk about things in that much depth anyway. So if you're doing small talk or they're talking to other people who they meet and they speak English, a lot of the time they don't want to know the real details of things. And our job as teachers is to really get this out of our students.
Well, that's our opinion. That might not be every teacher's opinion.
Well, I like to. And I don't know if my students really believe me when I say, but tell me exactly how it works. And I really am interested in the way that works in technical terms and to see if my students can actually explain it, because maybe that's their job to explain it.
If that is their job, then that might be a requirement to explain in both their language and English how something works. Also, as I think you just mentioned, quite often people are not asked how things work. They're simply told how things work and then they work them. They use them.
That's right. And convincing our students that I really want to know, please tell me, and I don't mind if it takes you 20 minutes. That is quite a struggle sometimes because they say, oh yeah, it's technical. And you say, well, I know, break it down for me.
That's the most interesting part of the class.
I would encourage teachers to say to people who do have these sort of jobs, show me on the screen, like demonstrate that. If I was a user of your program, how does it work? What do I need to do? How do I open it? What do I press? What do I click on? It's a real challenge for them, but you have to show them that you want to know. Take me through all the steps in detail, intricate detail. And they may not want to at the beginning, and they may look at you strangely, like nobody's ever asked, and, this isn't typical.
I guess you can check with them. If they don't ever need to talk about these things in English, then, of course, abandon it. But if it is interesting for them and it's useful for their jobs, then definitely keep pushing them until they can explain exactly what it is they do and how it works.
And it's the same for everyday English too. How do you load a washing machine? Get students to talk about it. It's great language, functional language. You have to open the door, put your washing in, open the drawer, fill up what is that thing called where you put the liquid or the powder? It's a tray, and then you close that drawer. You have to set the program. How do you set the program? You turn the dial or you press the buttons. This language is great. We need it.
When do we need it, Em?
When we're explaining how to use things.
Why are we explaining how to use things?
Because somebody might not know.
That's very true. I think I once stayed in an Airbnb and somebody told me how to use the washing machine. It was a very good skill that they had.
Exactly, Gav. That's a good example.
Another question I have been reflecting on recently is, how can we make our podcast more popular?
Why would we want to do that, Gav?
That's a good question. It sounds like it would be even more work, but I think it might be nice to share our show with more teachers and learners. What do you think?
I think more the merrier, more to the party, more fun.
How can we do that? Give me some balls of spit.
Spitball?
That's it. Let's spitball this topic. Let's brainstorm. Let's make some spider's webs and see how we can connect all these little bubbles of ideas.
We could pay for advertising?
That's a nice idea, but that sounds expensive.
It does. We could become influencers.
Influencers? We're already influencers, aren't we?
I don't think I am. Speak for yourself. I mean, you might be, but maybe we could just ask our followers to tell people about us.
That sounds like a very good idea. Pause the recording, follower, turn to the person on your left or right behind you or in front of you and just whisper in their ear, have you checked out Gav Em's How to English TEFL pod? It's really interesting, educational and fun.
Or, if you're listening to us on your headphones, maybe in a staff room, lots of teachers around, just disconnect the headphones or
switch off the Bluetooth.
Switch off the Bluetooth. Let us out there. Just let people listen to us. And people may look at you slightly annoyed, like, what's that sound? But then give it another couple of minutes and they might think, oh, hang on a minute, that sounds interesting. I'd quite like to listen to that.
That sounds like a great answer to the question I posed, Em. If you're a student, if you're a teacher, speak to your class, spread the word, get everybody involved, see if your headmaster? Mistress.
Head teacher. Director. Principal.
Yes, all of those people, or perhaps that's the same person, would be interested in having a listen and they might want to share the show too.
Students, if you're in a conversation group or exchange group, tell other people about us. Recommend us.
These are all good ways to spread the word, Em, to get the word out there, the word of Gav and Em.
Oh, now it sounds a bit weird.
It's a bit like a cult, isn't it?
I might be out on the streets with leaflets giving them out to people. Do it the old-fashioned way.
Word of mouth.
That's better. And while you're at it, why don't you buy us a coffee?
That's right. Visit ko-fi.com/how-to-English-pod. And then you can send us a little refreshing tip.
Tip? Oh, yeah. Like a tip bonus. Yeah. Nice. Gav, the last thing I'm going to talk about that I've been thinking about recently is translation apps or dictionaries.
Emma, you're talking about a book with some very dog-eared pages.
It could be, but not usually. We've all been there, Gav. You're in the lesson. The students are trying to think of a word or they don't know the word in English. So what do? They just open an app.
It's a reflex.
Yeah. What do you mean it's a reflex?
I think any time these days you look over, the person next to you is reaching for their mobile phone to check their messages, to check the news.
Yeah.
To read the weather forecast.
You mean just the technology is at our fingertips, so we use it? Yes.
Without thinking, we just reach out for this device to give us the answer.
Yeah, and students love it. They have their apps open usually. In my lessons, they've got their laptop or their PC on. They're looking at the meeting, but they've also got a page open with a translation app there. Or they've got their mobile phone. Obviously, mobile phones have got everything on them. They're either using Google Translate or they've got their own dictionary on there.
Or they're using an AI.
Whatever it is, they're always connected, aren't they? And they use it all the time. I've got students who just constantly check what words are in English.
My students can even real-time translate me into their own language if they want to via a specific online video chat app.
They do that these days, that's right. So I'm wondering, Gav, if I am still being a little bit precious about this, because I always say to my students, just don't use the translation. If you can avoid it, try and explain the word. Think of a synonym. Think of a sentence with that word in it and don't say that word, but say everything around that word.
Describe it to me. Is it fluffy? Has it got 7 heads? What is it?
Yeah. We always do that as teachers, don't we? We are naturally saying to students, don't translate, don't think about it in your own language.
Don't whisper it in your own language to the other student next to you and think that I'm not listening to you and I can't see you cheating.
Well, but that word's interesting, cheating. I don't know whether it's relevant anymore, whether we have got the right to say to our students, don't translate, because this is ubiquitous technology and we do it all the time. We always check things. But I think it's still a bit strange if you're having a conversation to see them just reach into their pocket and check something.
What's in their pocket, Em?
Their phone. I mean, not like, my keys in there, but you know what I'm saying. Maybe I'm just a bit of a dinosaur saying to them, stop using apps, stop using technology.
You sound very anti-modernity, Em. You seem to be trying to stop the tidal wave of the future from overcoming your precious anti-technology feelings.
I'm just trying to get people to think in English, and I think there is some validity to that, because it must be quite confusing to keep switching your language in your head to think about things in one language and then another. Or is it, Gav? What do you think?
I'm not sure I'm on this dinosaur train with you, Em. Going back into prehistoric times where people used their own brains.
Okay, let me just visualise this. We're on a dinosaur train going backwards.
In time.
In time to the past where there were no phones, no books, nothing. I'm not anti-technology, and I'm wondering, this is why I want to talk to you about it, I'm wondering if I need to embrace it, just say, yeah, go for it, use the app. Maybe we're just going to have a device that we put in our ear and it translates everything for us.
But that means that we can't speak the language. You'd just be able to listen to it.
Well, it's a two-way thing.
Not if you've just got something in your ear. Anyway,
I haven't finalised the design
practicalities of this solution.
But I'm going to go back on that train. I like that train. I've got my ticket. I want to go back because in this one thing, this one little aspect of teaching, I think translation isn't very helpful.
Can I come in now?
Yes.
I used to say to my students, think of this conversation like a real conversation out of the classroom, face to face. When you're chatting with somebody, you don't just pull out your phone and translate a word that you're stuck on, because that's not a normal conversation. But it is now.
Yeah, I was going to say, I know people that pull out their phones to check things, whatever it is, not usually translation, but what's the name of that film? Or who's that bloke that did that thing?
Or they pull out their phone and say, have you seen this video of this person playing a pink guitar to animals?
We are living in a world where we use our phones as aids. I do see that. I agree. And it's not unusual for people to say, oh, look at this, or I'm going to just check the word.
So maybe you might be fighting against a future which you cannot beat.
Possibly. I just still would encourage my students not to use translation apps. Because you're having a conversation and they're talking about something and they say, yeah, it's that vegetable, It's red on the outside.
Is it a tomato?
No, it's white in the middle. You have it with salad. It's a bit spicy sometimes.
Ooh, quite fiery.
Yep.
That's a radish.
It's a radish, and we've had an interaction there. You know, we've engaged our brains.
Yes.
And I think that's a good thing.
I feel like we're connected for a second there, Em.
I've used a lot of language to describe that thing. You've been listening attentively. We haven't just stepped out of the conversation for a second just to, you know, look at a screen.
And if you wanted to switch to describing tomatoes, it's not very far from your radish description.
You can easily jump to a different food group. I just see value in that. I think that's a good thing. So I will definitely fight for this. Maybe it's not possible to win against the tidal wave of future technology, but I'm going to try.
It sounds like you'll be on the train heading in the opposite direction, Em.
Which is a good thing in the sense of a tidal wave, I guess. Backwards away from it.
Okay, you just stay in that little metaphor and relax. It seems that we are almost at the end of the show, but I have to just share a little thing I've been thinking about post my lesson yesterday.
You mean just after your lesson yesterday you had a thought?
Yes.
Right, simply.
Which was why on that website, in that article that I shared with my very low-level students on the topic they were quite interested in talking about, did it feature the word don?
Don.
Don.
D-O-N?
Yes, D-O-N.
Don. Not the person's name.
Can you guess what the article was about?
Don. No, I have no idea.
It was about clean room clothing.
What? Clean room clothing?
Yeah, overalls that you need to wear and gloves and masks and special shoes and all of these things.
That's just clicked in my head now. You have to don them in the sense of a verb. To don. To don an overall?
A pair of overalls.
To don a pair of overalls.
And the goggles.
That's quite hard language for a beginner.
It is, but to be honest, the rest of the article was pretty simple. It just had the word don and garments.
So what did you say?
I just added in the email that I sent after the lesson with the attachment to the article. By the way, don means put on, and garments are clothes.
And we don't really use them in normal speaking situations.
We don't put on clothes.
I mean, we don't say, please don your coat, it's cold outside.
No, we don't.
We don't with a T at the end. It's a nice word, though.
It is, and it took me to a magical place, which is research. I had to find out what the flip is don.
Out of context, so if your students came to you the next lesson and said, Gav, what's don?
Exactly.
You wouldn't have a clue.
But I wouldn't have had a clue if I hadn't done a bit of research.
You mean you read the article? Is that what you mean?
No, I did some research into the etymological background. I looked into the history of the word don.
Oh, so you've got some extra facts about the word. What does it mean? Where does it come from?
Before I tell you, Em, a small addition to this story, I woke in the middle of the night, last night, and what word popped into my head?
Don? I don't know if it's not don.
Doff.
Doff. D-O-F-F.
Yes.
Doff? Oh, doff, like doff your cap.
Yes, meaning...
Whoa, hang on a minute. Take off. No.
Being the opposite of...
Don. To put on.
It actually means to do on.
Ah. Oh. Don. D-O-N. D. On.
To do on. And doff meaning...
To don off.
To do off, Em.
No.
Isn't that amazing?
That is amazing.
That's some pretty old English. Don meaning to do on, as in put on nowadays. We don't really say don very often. And doff, which we also don't say very often, means to take off, to do off.
I would argue we say don very rarely and we never say doff. Never. We've lost it completely.
Unless we're in an old Dickens movie and we might want to doff our caps to the local gents and ladies.
That's amazing. So these are the things you wake up in the middle of the night thinking about as a teacher.
Yes.
Thanks, Gav. That was amazing.
You're welcome, Em. And thank you. Now I'm going to leave you to ride your dinosaur train away from the rising tide of progress while I take the elevator of technology to the next level.
Well, Gav, I hope your ears don't pop on the way up.
Bing!
Bye, Gav.
Bye, Em.